Board of Education Committee of the Whole on being held on March 16th, Monday, March 16th at 6:06 p.m. at the central office. It's being held in person and online. In person tonight we have Mike Whitney, myself, Beverly Washington, and Adrian Johnson. And online we have Dr. Andrea Ackerman, Ian Thomas, Jay Whitlaw, Jen White, Sean Cochran, and staff. We have Matt Brown online and Rita Parsiak. And then in person we have Shannon and Rebecca and Sam with us. And of course the superintendent, Susan Austin. So the first item on the agenda is review the minutes of March 9th, attachment number 1. Do you have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Any suggestions, any comments or corrections?
No.
Okay, Adrian made the motion to approve the minutes, Mike made the second. So far, no corrections. All those in favor of approving the minutes of March 9th, 2026, say aye.
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 Oppose? Abstention? So approved. Jen, you have your hand up?
Just to vote, Beverly.
Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is follow-up for the robotics manufacturing, attachment number 2, the DREAM
The
plan.
DREAM, Department of Robotics, Engineering, Architecture, Manufacturing, Machining.
Yeah.
And coming along, I've been trying to keep up in board notes to show pictures. The robotics team has built their robot. They're getting ready to compete next week, so we're really excited for them. And, you know, they've been practicing and working around the clock, so kudos to them. We're also, we've received the funding, and I put it in the board notes, although it's in a hyperlink. So I just want you to know that I had put together a memo that I will be sending the board in town. It's actually called the Partnership, is where you'll find it. And as you know, we've had this partnership with Electric Boat over the past several years. K-5, we have the Boat for Kids program. Groton Middle, we also have the Boat for Explorers and Sea Perch, and then the high school has EB Boat for Next Gen. And I was saying to Adrian when he was coming in that we have 4 candidates now who've done that program and are all signed up for EB for a really fine job.
How good.
Making good money, you know, making what sometimes college grads will make starting with a high school diploma. So very exciting, and they get an education. So the career pathways are alive and well, and this is an additional piece. We've had some of these courses already, but I think the machining is going to be a really wonderful addition. And with the funds in the amount of, and the grant goes all the way through to the end of July in purchasing the equipment. And the price tag on it is nearly 500,000 or 250,000. It's like 248.
499.
Yeah. So we've got Lori Ferguson, who's been our project director online, to talk us through the presentation. She did the same thing in Coventry with EB and then retired, and so she was able to partner with us as an advisor, and it's been really a good working group. We thank Sam and his crew who've really engineered this room and gotten it ready for us, and now, you know, we'll be able to purchase additional machines. So the kids won't absolutely have to share. If they've got a piece of equipment on one machine, they can use the other machine during the day. So that should really relieve some. So Lori,
Hi, am I on?
you're on.
Is she going to go through this packet?
Yeah, she's going to talk us through.
Okay.
Yep.
Kate,
Good evening.
can you,
Yeah, Kate, can you put up the Fitch High School machine program? That's one of the attachments.
attachment 2, Kate.
Attachment 2.
Just let me know when it's up because I
Okay.
can't see.
Oh, you can't see?
No, that's okay. I have mine up on my side, on
Okay.
my screen. Is it up?
Caitlin, are you, oh, there it comes.
Oh, yeah, I can see it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so the last time I was there in November with the electric boat team, we went through all of the components of the program and what we had done up to that point, and we were getting ready to purchase equipment and whatnot. We had moved the robotics, or I think the robotics club, the facilities, we're moving that into the auto shop. That was happening at that time. And when we presented, the board had a few questions that they wanted answered, and that's what I have here for you tonight. So if you go to the next slide, thank you. That's our green Department of Robotics, Engineering, Architecture, and Manufacturing. Next slide, thank you. These were the three questions that you wanted a little more clarification on, and that was, what did we do in order to prepare the facilities or know that we could have a manufacturing program in the auto shop? What what assessments were done? What was going to be the total cost of the project? And then what was the timeline for implementation? So if you go to the next screen, the needs assessment that we performed was on the facilities and space and on the project itself. If you go to the next screen. So we consulted with, of course, Sam Kilpatrick and his team on the basic utilities of the space. We also consulted with the machine team from Electric Boat, who advised us on utilities for the type of machinery that we wanted to purchase. And then we also had the instructor from Coventry High School in Rhode Island, who had recently been involved in the implementation of his machine shop. He was there to give us feedback as well as the equipment representative. So utilizing the expertise of these people, the fire department, we also had an architect come in to look at the space. We were able to look at the space, the actual layout of the space, the infrastructure of the space, safety and compliance, making sure that we had all adequate safety things in place, and then of course the technology, and we consulted with Clint Kennedy to make sure that we have the appropriate Wi-Fi, internet connectivity for what we needed for the CNC machines. So if you go to the next slide, Kayla, this is a checklist of what we did and who we consulted with during that, looking at those particular components of the facilities in space. Any questions yet?
I have a question.
Okay.
For the plumbing and drainage needs, it says you have a sink. Is one sink going to be enough in that room?
Yes, you really don't actually need a sink, but it is always nice to have a sink in a trade space, of course, because you have to, sometimes wash tools or things like that. So there is a sink already there. It's actually a large sink. It's like a 6x4, I think it is, or it might even be on there. That's already in
6x4.
place, and we didn't have to add any additional plumbing to that space. That tells us that we have plumbing and we have water in the event that we need it for the CNC machines.
And as far as the compressed air system feasibility, it says may need to be updated at some point. Do you have an idea when that might be? Are you thinking
Yes.
like a year,
Yes.
2 years?
Yes, we're actually going to replace the compressor because it is quite old. It was put in there when that shop was built, and it is quite old, and so we are replacing it. The replacement will be just about the same air air compressor capabilities as what is there now. And we've already received quotes on that, and so that will be replaced. Better to replace it now than to get all of that equipment in there and then have to replace it, especially given that we do have extra equipment with robotics and whatnot.
Okay.
And we have the funds now, thanks to the generosity
Yes.
of the funding source, yep.
And my last question is, has to do with, where it says deliverable, an estimate of the project was completed for program implementation. What was that estimate?
That estimate was at 504,000, I believe it was. It was a little bit over 500,000. We've since come in less than that,
Okay,
but at that time, that's what it was.
okay. Thank you very
That
much.
was the total project. Yes, thank you, Beverly.
Anybody else have questions? Adrian, you got any questions?
Not on this
No.
slide.
Mike? No. Jen? Jen, you had your hand up?
In regards to that 500,000, is that going to be discussed later, like in the later slides?
Yes, the budget is in there. I'm just going in order of the questions that were asked.
Oh, okay, because I didn't really view that as a budget. I saw that as a funding revenue source. So as you're going through your presentation, if you can like sort of walk us through like the budget and what you're thinking the budget was. So that's just something as you're heading towards that slide. I just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Okay, Jen, when we get to that slide, can you just clarify a little bit further? Because that slide is the revenue source and then each of the components. That is the whole budget that we had for this project, and it has aligned to the budget, the funding source that will take care of that, those components. So the whole project has been funded through revenue sources and not through local funds.
Okay, Lori?
Yeah, we'll wait until we'll get there. I just heard budget, so I figured I would chime in, but yeah, no, I was gonna ask my question there.
Okay,
Sorry to
all right, it's only a couple more to go, all right.
One question I have, sorry, I meant to ask this before, but I'm interested in actually seeing the plan for the space. Is that something that you can send the board, just a PDF of what the layout is?
Yes,
For the room.
absolutely. Yep.
Okay, we're all set.
Okay, if you want to go to the next, it's the project planning assessment, and this is where we looked at what equipment are we going to need, what tooling or storage, and, the funding, and then, of course, the instructional technology. So this is really the meat and potatoes of it, where, we're looking at everything that is going to come into the space, how it's coming in, and, what is appropriate for what the goals of this school are. So, of course, we're looking at a robotics and machining program. The machining program is going to hopefully be training students for electric boat and local businesses. And then, of course, the robotics ties in nicely with that whole design with machining, manufacturing, engineering. All of that ties nicely together. And much of the robotics equipment is similar to the machinery that will be in that room anyway. So we looked at this again. If you go to the next slide, we have a list of what things we looked at. We looked at how the equipment, first of all, what kind of equipment did we need? An electric boat was our largest, of course, consultant on that, and as they were when I did previous projects, because they know the type of equipment they want students trained on, and so they played a large part in procuring the equipment, or at least knowing which equipment we were going to include. And then how were we going to store the tools? We looked at other spaces. A tool crib is generally how you would store your tools so that they are safe and locked up, and so we looked at putting that, including that into the blueprint. Our raw materials, where were they going to go? Workbenches, classroom space, and then we got into the electrical capacity and what did we need for those specific machines, and how were we going to update that, and did we need to update that? Remember, this space was already outfitted for an auto shop, so much of this was already in place, thankfully. We looked at the compressed air system, ventilation, and then plumbing and drainage, which, I'm on the wrong one, I'm sorry, I'm on the facilities. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back to that. This is, so the steering committee, along with the machine professionals, guided us through this process. The steering committee was made up of stakeholders throughout the district, along with Electric Boat, and we also had a couple of people from UConn who were advising us. And so all of this project planning, we met weekly or every other week, and they guided us through this process. Questions on the project planning?
Agent?
Yeah, so early on, there was some concerns about running the robotics program in the evenings at the same time, and the need to kind of set up machines and leave them set up, and kind of conflicting with the daytime use for the classes. Did the space work out where those conflicts have been resolved, or potential conflicts have been resolved?
Well, I think we're getting double the machines. We're getting another one of each of their machines that will sit kind of parallel, so that you've got more machines to work off of, which will be, I think that will absolutely solve the problem.
But did robotic, I assume that they were consulted through this whole, there's probably people from robotics on the committee, but, have they physically said that this will, support their program as it is, the plan as it is?
Well, all of their equipment is already there, and so it is already supporting them, and it will continue to support them. As we get the machinery in, then we will follow the blueprint and where that machinery needs to go, but their equipment is already there.
So will the daytime classes be using the same equipment?
Basically.
No.
Oh,
No, we have extra equipment that we've gotten for just about everything. Everything that they had, we've gotten at least one more of.
So it's similar, though. The equipment is the same, but they'll have double the number of equipment pieces to work off of, so that shouldn't be a problem.
So there's gonna be dedicated equipment for robotics, at least the equipment that requires setup. So that is not a concern anymore?
It isn't a concern right now. We've included their equipment in the blueprint. It is right where their equipment is now, and so we have integrated that into the plan. And they should be good. And I think there are other spaces for them to do different work. So you're not going to be doing wood work in the machine shop. So wood work would, when they have to do wood type of cutting and machining, then they'll be doing that in the wood space.
And the workspace has a lot of those big tables, so that would be good workspace even to build robots, because we've got 55 signed up for robotics next year, the course, and it's really tailored after kind of FIRST robotics. So there's a lot of synergy, and I haven't looked at the names, but I've heard from kids that a lot of the kids in the robotics club are very excited to take robotics.
Yeah,
during the day.
I'm sure. It was just a concern that that manufacturing and robotics could share equipment. So if that's concern is is, no longer, then that's fine. We can move on from that. The other thing is, I think robotics, do they have a partial field set up in the space right now?
Yep.
And I assume we'll be losing that, so did we figure out what we're going to do for that?
I think we're working on that. I know that I've talked to EB about a possible local field, and T-Mobile has a grant that they might be interested in and partnering with another district. But we're going to have to look into that. I know in the past what they've done is they've built the field. They actually have a field that they take with them every year, so we have a place to store it. And they kind of set it up, and that's what they were doing at Fitch before. But I'd love to find a field space for them.
All right, so as of right now, robotics will have the machinery that they need next year, but they will be losing a field that they currently have, or space for a field that they currently have. Because I was under I see Ian's got his hand up, and I think he probably knows more about this than I. But I remember that was a concern last year, that they had a really tough time practicing if they had to move in and out of the gym every night, or the cafeteria, wherever their field is. But maybe Ian can.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying when
Okay.
maybe Ian can comment on that, because I think he knows more than I do about the field needs.
Well,
Not
can I ask
necessarily.
a question first?
Yeah.
You don't mind, do you?
No, no.
Okay. Lori, you say workstations. Does each student have a workstation?
No,
They work together in teams.
yes, there are group workstations, like a workstation is four to a table, a workbench.
Okay. All right. And when you say CNC software, what do you mean by that? What's that?
The CNC machines are computer controlled. So they're programmed. There's a small computer that is located on the outside of the machine that students control. They put a code in to get the machine going, and that takes software. And that software comes with the machine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ian, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. So a couple of things. One, I just want to kind of follow up and ask a very direct question based on what Adrian was asking. Has the robotics team and the EV people been in direct consultation about, shared space usage?
Yes, at the beginning of this project, we met together with, when we had the EB's machine team in, I think it's Sherry Fracas.
Focus, yep.
Yep, Vegas, she was there. We've also had, is it Ben Moon?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And he's been included in every meeting that we've had.
Okay, and if I'm understanding correctly, and that's a very straightforward answer, but I hear what you're saying. You're saying that there is, all the machinery is duplicated. There will never be a moment where the robotics team machinery will be used by the manufacturing students.
I wouldn't say never, Ian, because you can't say never, because I've got students who've said to me they could be working on a project during the day that could also be worked on at night, and it's the same project. So if you've got a student who's taking a robotics or a machining course during the day, they could be working on...
Let me rephrase the question.
Yeah.
So a student doing robotics machinery will never be using an EV machine. Doing a robotics project will not be using EV machinery to do a robotics project, nor will any EV student be using any robotics machinery to do an EV project.
Well, they may use it. And at some point, when these two programs really gel and come together, like other programs, around in other schools, they can have that kind of relationship where they are able to, utilize machinery. It all depends on what's happening in the class, in the manufacturing class. It depends what's happening for the robotics team. I mean, that really is based on the relationship of the people, right? I wouldn't see why.
Well, so what makes me nervous is the fact that, you know, the robotics team has historically extended a lot of effort and done a lot of fundraising to get the equipment that they have. And, you know, while I understand everything may be cooperative, you know, at certain points, then it may also become contentious at certain points. So, you know, rephrase a certain interpretation of Robert Frost's poem, good fences make good neighbors. So just having a clear understanding of what the boundaries are between the two groups and what the expectations and responsibilities are when it comes to the machinery and the projects. You know, just the way it's being described, you know, I feel a little nervous about this because I don't feel like there's a good definition between the two. And I do see Sherry Frakes is in the attendees. And I'm wondering, you know, could we involve her in this conversation just to get a sense of, like, you know, how they perceive this project moving forward and how it relates to the robotics team?
Lori, did
That's what they would do.
Lori, did you already have this conversation with Sherry?
Sherry was with us virtually and in person a few times. I personally have not had any conversation with Sherry of conflict. I would think I would have heard that at some point if there was a conflict of utilizing machinery. I thought as we were moving forward throughout this process with the steering committee, that it was an integration. Robotics was coming into this space. It was being welcomed into this space. They had their own equipment that they were going to be using. We were purchasing additional equipment that the machine shop was going to be using, and the spaces were going to be able to coexist to the best that they could, given that they both have objectives. One is, you know, the robotics competition, and the other is student training of workforce development. And I just didn't see any conflict that I'm hearing now. I haven't seen that throughout.
And Lori, you bring to us a lot of expertise in this area in Coventry, where you had, you know, not only the project, but you had staff on board in the school by day, and then someone coaching the team in the evening, but they worked together on that. And so I think that that's just a matter of, once we get the layout, to look at it with the robotics team and to walk it through. You know, we were having conversations with the kids who showed up for the Association of Defense Communities about really the ability to take both a machining course and robotics course. And there's a lot of excitement about that.
All right, well, Ian, can I talk? Ian, can I talk? So, Ian, can I talk, please? So this isn't an area of contention. Caitlin, can you promote Sherry Frakes so she can speak?
She is promoted.
Okay. Sherry, do you want to address that issue? She's promoted?
She is promoted. She can unmute herself. Yep.
Okay.
Hello.
Sherry?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, yes, I'm close the door, sorry. I'm at the shop right now, I'm trying to listen to the meeting as well as, keep an ear open for the shop. Could you, repeat the question?
Okay, Ian, can you repeat the question for Sherry?
Yes, my concern was make sure that the robotics team was properly represented as far as you know, the areas of usage. And to my understanding, the way it's being explained tonight so far is that basically there are parallel sets of machinery, where there's the robotic sets of machinery and there's the manufacturing sets of machinery. And my question was, are we confident and are we clear that there's a delineation between the two, whereas like a robotics, project will not be being done on the manufacturing equipment. Likewise, a manufacturing project will not be done on the on the robotics equipment. Just to make sure that there's a good delineation, because I know the robotics team has expended, years of effort and fundraising to acquire the equipment they have.
Yes.
And Sherry, can I add something to that? If that happens, would there be a problem? Is that something you can work out with the machine people if that happens in the future?
So I'm concerned about where those machines are going to go. I mean, currently, we're using up a majority of the space between our machines, our tool storage, and our half of the field. So I just can't, I would love to see the floor plan.
So Sherry, the other thing we're doing is having the wood shop cleaned out. They've got some great tables in there. We're going to be putting some of the tools for our robotics class in that area so the robotics class can work out of multiple spaces. So they'll have that space. There's also a couple STEM classes with new instructors coming in. So there's going to be more of that CAD and 3D printing in a space that's really close to the auto shop that I know you know about. So there's some multiple spaces that are going to be coming. So it won't just be that space for the classes during the day, and even for the robotics team to use in the afternoon.
Okay, I just don't understand how we're going to have double machines in this space. There's no space right now for that.
Right. There's no space right now because of the field. So we can show you and talk to you and, guide through this process.
So is the field being moved somewhere else?
Not now, no.
But that was being discussed just a few minutes ago as a possible future situation.
Because I don't know where else the field would go.
So that's something that we're working on.
Let me.
So, just from my position, I'm not comfortable supporting anything unless we have a very clear understanding of how all the space and all the materials are going to be used, who is responsible for what, and what lines of demarcation exist between the two. And to make sure that, the robotics equipment is not going to be used by manufacturing, and that robotics has the space and the equipment they need and are feeling fully supported by the school. And then also the same with the manufacturing. If we're going to bring that in, then we're going to make sure that there's space and support for that. But, I'm very uncomfortable with any sort of cross-pollination, even though there's going to be overlap between the program of the people, of the staff, and perhaps the students, I should say the students, and perhaps some staff. The usage of the material and the space should definitely be well delineated and well understood, and to the point of an MOU, and like Sherry said, I'd love to see a floor plan. What is the game plan? Phase one, right now the robotics is in a certain position. Manufacturing has not fully come in yet. So that's that arrangement, but then what is the future anticipation? And I want to be sure that at every stage of this process, the robotics should be in constant conversation with the manufacturing and the administration. At no point should, I don't want to hear about, robotics feeling, like they're not having a seat at the table, because they are the pre-existing team here. They are the ones that's been here. And as exciting the opportunity as manufacturing is, we should not do it at the cost of supporting robotics.
Yeah, we don't want the robotics to feel like they're being pushed aside.
Exactly.
Dr. A, your hands up, Dr. A?
It is, and once again, I'm not sure that I really grasp everything that's being said, and that I'm clear on what was said. However, my concern is, because of the confusion that I have, my concern is about liability. It sounds to me as though there's some equipment that belongs to robotics and there's some equipment that belongs to the EV Fitch High School endeavor. So, what if a child is on robotics equipment, but then that kid was really a part of the EV program, or vice versa, and the child gets hurt? So, who's liable if a kid is using equipment that's in the district, and he's part of the robotics, or the kid that's part of the district and isn't part of you see what I'm saying?
I would say that it's the district's responsibility. You're at Fitch High School, so just like anything else, if it's an after-school sport or if it's a PE class during the day, it would have the same effect that we would be liable. You'd have a coach, a mentor, who's, an employee, a coach, and, Sherry is an employee of the district. And so she's, and Chris Jenkins are the coaches, and they're monitoring their kids and the mentors too, but they're responsible, just like the teacher is in the classroom, Andrea. So I don't see this as a real problem that, we're...
So even if the equipment doesn't belong to us?
Well, it does belong to us underneath the umbrella, just like all the, sports boosters, if they get equipment or whatever they get, it still belongs to the district ultimately. I mean, it's under the boosters, they've purchased it, it's theirs for their use, but we would take on any liability, and we have with this club.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that answers my question. Thank you.
I want to jump to Mike, because he didn't ask a question yet. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. The blueprint that's mentioned in the handouts, Adrian asked for that. I was wondering if we get board consensus to get that version of the blueprints.
I think Lori already said she's got it and can send it to you, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And then my question about that is, from what I've heard so far, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the blueprints as conceived have space allocated for the robotics team equipment that's currently there, and then the additional equipment that's going to be bought. I think that's correct, right?
That's right. Lori, right?
Say it again?
So the blueprints that discussed about and for planning has in it the robotics team equipment that's currently there, and then the new equipment that's going to be bought.
Yes, yep.
Okay, good, and that's great. And does it have the half field that they work on, or is that space used up?
Yeah, it doesn't, because that half field is half of the shop.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, and so you really wouldn't have a machine shop or any shop if you had a half of it taken up by the field. So we did, we have been trying to figure out where is that field going to go and what is the best way to have them not have to take down something and put something up. So, I mean, we're fortunate that we have some time to, figure that out. But no, we wouldn't be able to have the field in that same space.
Thanks.
Okay, Jen?
We've been planning, but we haven't been, I guess, the robotic stakeholders were either not part of it because they didn't, I guess, and they didn't realize they were going to lose half their field, which was already an issue to begin with because it was smaller than what they had prior. And granted, moving, there are sacrifices to be made, like from a large field to a medium field, but to have no field and to have no plans as to where that field is going to be located, that's a big concern, right? Because as you're developing your robots, how are you going to test it? Whether it's for the robotic club or whether it's for the classes. we'd like to think that with the 50 students or 55 students that are currently going to be enrolled, that those same kids will sort of be part of robotics, so they're hopefully the same population, and hopefully in time it could get integrated, but we're not there yet, and I'm not actually seeing a plan of the course load, how that's going to take place, and how it's going to get integrated, or how they can coexist. I don't know if it's just me, but maybe if the board can request, like maybe within 2 to 3 weeks, to get a presentation with better understanding of how the two programs are going to coexist, because both is beneficial, for the district, right? It's just space is finite, and so we just need to understand where. And that blueprint would have been helpful, so I'm looking forward to getting that. And I'm not sure if it's going to be in the wood shop or if there's some other location within Fitch, that we can utilize. I'm okay with the classes as Susan described, right? Because I've seen some of those and I can see but I'm just concerned about the field also. That's my main concern, and we need to work together, and I don't see that right now.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Adrian?
This is Matt. Oops, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead.
We are working together. I do feel like we're working together with robotics. I think we've opened up the building this year to make sure that we could coexist. I do think the field, when we talked about the field back in the fall, that was not that wasn't a final solution. That was more of a temporary solution as we were building the lab. It is a very big space, and it is difficult to have that big of a space in a building like Fitch High School or any school. I honestly, I would love to see some other high schools where they have created a field right in the school that they could have both if they have that size. But we are definitely collaborating, working with Sherry and the whole robotics team, and we will continue to. But I think that the field itself in that machining room, I don't think that's a solution that will work in the long term. That was just really we made that decision this year to get us through this year as we could work to a better solution.
But we do have
And
plans to.
That's really what we talked about in the fall.
But we do have plans to refurbish those other spaces, so some of the tool kits can go into the wood shop, and we might be able to do some of the assembly there for both classroom, and robotics. So I think we just have to work on that some more, Matt, to finalize what that's going to those extra spaces are going to look like.
But it's not a like we're against robot. We have limited space at the school, so that makes it challenging to create a field like we have right now. So we definitely have to continue brainstorming. We are more than happy to continue to brainstorm with the robotics group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to have to happen.
Thanks for bringing. Oh, sorry, Deb.
Do you have your hand raised, Jen?
Oh, no, I thought he was responding to my question, so I was responding back. So,
Okay, go ahead.
I don't have my hand up.
All right, go ahead.
Matt, thanks for jumping in and bringing that forward. So that was not, you've been listening to the presentation. I did not see that clearly. So the fact, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Adrian.
So my question was originally going to be about the field, but Sherry also brought up like tool chests and stuff, and the fact that she hasn't seen the plan either, I think shows to maybe we need to bring robotics in a little bit more if there is a blueprint and the robotics team hasn't even seen that. And as far as the field goes, I don't know that I was under the understanding that the field was temporary, or I guess I was under the understanding that if the field is temporary for this year, that the plan for the manufacturing center and the field would happen concurrently, and I'm a little bit concerned that robotics is going to be in the same, we're going to be in the same place in September, that we're going to have a place for robotics to build the robots, but we're going to have other issues, other space issues, and then have to work them out later. I personally think that we need to have that answer now. I assume that the board is going to actually I don't know that the board has actually approved the full project yet, right?
No,
So
yeah.
we're going to
Well, and you
be
have to
voting
approve the
on.
money, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So we're going to be voting on that, but obviously, like, before we get to that vote, we would need to know, like, the full plan, not just part of it, because it seems like the plan that we have now is going to displace robotics to some extent, and I think we just need an answer to that.
Yeah, I agree on
Well,
that.
I think the whole program, including the robotics, so the program by day and the robotics is going to have to utilize more than just the auto shop. So we're going to have multiple spaces to do the work for the kids.
I think we need to have those spaces
Right.
beforehand,
Yeah.
and not like say, okay, we're gonna have them. We need to have
So
them
we'll-
beforehand.
Lori, we'll try to do the renderings for the other spaces too, to show where everything's going to go.
Yep, that was not included at first because naturally everything takes time. And so, the state, we want the robotics team to have their competition and to do their thing this year. We know that we don't have to get the machines in until the end of this school year. So we've been taking our time so that, everybody can do what they need to do. But we have at least identified 2 other spaces for them. There isn't a field space at this time, but it isn't something that no one's still looking for, right? So we're trying to find a place for the field, the practice field. Again, as Matt said, a little bit difficult in the school because of just space issues in a high school. But certainly, I think the robotics team has gotten more space in having the wood shop and the computer lab.
That may be true, but they're not available now. Are they? Is that all set up for them?
We're cleaning them out, we're getting them ready. Like, that's all work that has to be done to get ready for them. But right now, they're housed in the auto shop because no one else is there, and that's a great spot for them right now to do their competition. And so as they're doing that, we're trying to prepare the other space, but it's still in the school year. So that's difficult to do when you still have kids in the building and they're still utilizing spaces. So, it's not something that just can happen, like quickly.
Well, and that's why it's a gradual process.
Right.
Ian, do you have your hand up again?
Yes, thank you. Yes, but I know it's a long process, but that doesn't, before there's any process or anything being done, there has to be a plan. And I think that's sort of where, well, at least that's sort of what I'm not seeing, and that seems, and that's what I'm hearing from some of my colleagues here, is that, what is the game plan? What's the 5-year plan? What does that look like? What does Fitch Robotics and Fitch Manufacturing look like, 5 years from now? Like when we're supposedly in a certain state, when we're through the transition. What is the goal? Do we have that space mapped out? And when can we start, because I'm not going to be comfortable voting to move forward in increments unless I can see how those increments link together to a positive outcome in the future for both programs. Thank you.
At the end of this presentation, Ian, to answer that question, there is a timeline, just a couple of slides down, and that timeline shows an additional robotics elective and actually having a sequence of robotics courses that will feed into that robotics program. And so naturally, that is part of the plan, and that's 4 years out as you start your first robotics course, and then you move to your second one, and so on. And all of those, when you're program planning, you do look 3 to 5 years out. Like the plan for this is to integrate all of these programs together so that these students can really just cross over into different avenues within this department. They can take engineering and robotics and machining, and all of them have transferable and buildable skills, right? And so, but you have to build that. It happens over time, but you have to start somewhere. We've certainly identified spaces for the robotics to be housed for the start of next school year, because we hope to have that elective course starting in the fall also. So I think you want to see something really concrete, but I don't think it's ready for that concrete plan yet. I hate to say you have to trust the process, but we're showing you how we're integrating robotics and other programs into this department. And it's almost like you have to trust the process that this is the direction we're moving in, and naturally, everyone's needs have to be considered.
Ian, were you talking about a course plan or a facility plan?
Say that again, Beverly.
I'm asking Ian, was he talking about a course plan or a facility plan?
So, first off, I'm a little concerned with the integration thing, like that language. Like I'm concerned about the robotics program being absorbed by the manufacturing department.
They're the same children. They're the same kids. They're the students who are interested.
Wait. Let him talk.
Manufacturing course.
No.
Is it a requirement for robotics team members to take manufacturing courses?
No, but they will want to.
Okay, so it won't always be the same guarantee. It'll be the same kids.
No, of course not. You can't have.
So to that end, like the integration makes me a little nervous, because integration could also lead to absorption of materials, or I don't know. Like that's what I want to see. I want to see the course plan. I want to see the site plan, the physical site plan of like how these two programs could coexist alongside each other and cooperate with each other, but also not co-opt each other either. I want to see like the manufacturing absorb robotics, and like displace, the people that we have there running that program. That's also a concern.
Nobody's displacing anyone, Ian. Nobody's displacing anyone.
And also, again, like, just want to see some concrete plans. Like, I understand trusting the process, but the process should have some procedure attached to it. The procedure can be pre-planned, and we should be able to see, like, step 1, phase 2, phase 3, this is what the goal is, and this is how we're going to get there.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
All right, the course plan is in the handout, but let's move on.
I know, we didn't get through the
I want to
presentation.
make sure that the robotics camp is involved in all this.
I get your point, Ian, I get your point, but let's move on. I get your point. I know what you're saying.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lori.
Okay,
Next slide. Next slide, Caitlin.
The next slide is the total cost of the project, and if you'll go to the next slide, Caitlin, thank you. You can see that the budget for the equipment is $327,249. You see the funding sources for that equipment. The tools, accessories, and technology, $50,835, and that the funding sources are listed there, broken down by each fund source. And then the facility preparation, that it was some of the utilities upgrade and the ventilation upgrade, and that is up to $100,000, and that is through that fund source. Now, I know Jen had some questions. If you want to keep going, unless Jen raises her hand. So the timeline for the implementation of...
She has a hand up. Go ahead, Jen.
Let's put it back to that equipment.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Bring that back.
Yeah, let's bring that back, Caitlin. Thank you.
So thank you for the project budget, right, as you're calling it. But when we asked for this information in November, I think we just wanted to understand the full impact of DREAM, right? Not just getting the project up, but like the operational cost. It's like 2 teachers, X amount of dollars, the material supplies that need to get replenished, X amount per semester, so it's a comprehensive understanding of what's this impact going to be to the district. So that when I'm thinking of budget, I'm thinking of like, this is what it is from A to Z to run it. This is only part of it, of how to get it started, right? We're cleaning up the space, we're purchasing the equipment, and we're ensuring that we have technology. But what I was more concerned about, like in November, was the operational side of it, because this is great for our students. We make investments in all sorts of courses, but we need to make sure that we take into account and we can get the teams fully staffed. Mr. Brown has like all the necessary resources, to, I don't know, say like desk or whatever it may be, like if we need to purchase equipment, things like that, and it's missing in my mind. So that's why when I saw this, like when it was delivered or shared, that was my concern. This is just Upstart, but it's not operationalizing things.
I can speak to
Susan wants to answer that question.
Jen, we did speak about this in November. We actually have the staff available. We'll be posting for this staff position, someone who can do robotics and machining. So in the beginning, it's just one position. We've lost from the CTE department another position, but we're not asking for that right up front. But for this next year and the years that we need it, we do have the staff member. We have someone retiring. So that's in place. As far as ongoing expenses, we are really front-loading this to get the tools that we need, to get the equipment, and to get the materials that we need. But we do have a Perkins grant, and we've been working with the State Department lead on career technology pathways, and he assures us that there's other Perkins grants. We use a Perkins grant. The CTE department shares those resources. They've used a lot of it for culinary in the most recent future. They've carved out funds for this year, and they can carve out more funds each year. But we're also, he's advised us to look at the Perkins secondary and Perkins supplemental, and those are annual amounts. So we're looking to sustain this with no additional operating costs at this time. So these are all through grant funding and funds that are meant for career technology education.
Okay, and this, Jen, does include the classroom, the instructional supplies to start up, but most importantly, going forward. You're not going to replace those things. You will replace your materials like your steel and things like that. But again, Susan explained where that could be replaced.
Like, the last thing I want is for us to set this program up, right? And then due to funding, shortfall, it dissipates, right? So as long as those Perkins, secondary and supplemental keep coming in, then that's fine. But last thing we want is for us to be worried about, like, how to sustain the program, right? And or take resources from, like, other parts of our curriculum, which is already constrained. So I just want to make sure that it's sustainable. So, Susan, if you're saying that the Perkins secondary and supplemental is something that we can essentially know that it's going to be there to help with the programming of this, then, that makes me feel better.
And is this the entire Perkins grant going to?
No, just a portion.
Just a portion of it. Right, Jen?
Yeah, I just wanted to explain the Perkins grant. The Perkins grant is an entitlement grant, and it's specifically to be used for career and technical education, only for career and technical education. And I think it's reasonable to expect that in the coming years, there will be at least that amount for Perkins. We receive $70,000 each year. And from everything that I've read as far as funding for school districts, workforce development, manufacturing, those are all top priorities for both the federal and state government.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Adrian.
All right, yeah, Shannon, I guess this one, if you maybe could just answer this.
Yeah.
So if we're receiving money for Perkins now, and we presumably would be receiving the same thing for a different, are we losing something? So what are we spending that money on now?
Yeah, so Melissa Manzioni manages the Perkins grant. So each year she meets with her team. So that includes the culinary department, the business department, the nursing program. So she, it kind of rotates each year. So for a couple years we focused on culinary when we needed to build up the equipment for that department. And this past year, we focused on manufacturing. So it kind of is like, it goes, I would say, like through a cycle.
But I think they all share. It's the 70,000. So I
They
know
do.
EMT
They do,
and
but-
nursing has gotten some things each year, so they share it.
But it isn't divided up equally necessarily each year. It's divided up depending on what the priorities are for the entire department.
Yeah.
So if, like, say, 5 years down the road, we need to purchase some more equipment for the manufacturing lab, then they could use Perkins for that.
All right, so, but I guess I'm just kind of saying we're adding a program here, so if we've got Perkins, $70,000 a year that's split into 5 different programs now,
Yeah.
there's going to be a loss on other programs because we're adding a program and we're going to divert that entire amount to that program for a little while.
I don't
So,
think the entire amount.
Well,
Yeah, I don't
some
know.
amount, but we don't have it in the budget, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, can I just ask one quick thing? Because is the 70,000 the secondary and supplemental combined?
No, supplemental is kind of a additional
Okay.
funds that we're receiving from the state this year specifically for this project.
Okay. Go ahead, Adrian. I just wanted to say.
So I guess I would like to see the budget, and if we're going to be spending our Perkins money on that, I would like to see what is the next thing on the priority. Like if we didn't do manufacturing, what would we be spending that Perkins money on? Like what are other departments losing because we're diverting that money to manufacturing?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's usually kind of on a rotation. So like every couple years, certain items need to be replaced and
Yeah,
so, and I mean, I think, with our classes too, I mean, some classes we discontinue for a while, like the CAD program, like we're bringing that back now, but
Manufacturing was like the wood shop, so I think he had
Yeah.
purchased some equipment at one point.
Right,
So it's
so
not like
we
it's
were
new,
purchasing a
it's
lot for-
just revised.
So
Yeah.
I guess, we can go back and forth on this, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying that if we're adding a program, the existing
Right.
programs are going to have less funding out of that Perkins grant in the
Right,
future.
so I imagine we won't be spending much on wood shop in the coming years.
Yeah, so what I'm requesting is that we get an actual budget or piece of paper that says where funding is getting diverted from
Yeah, it's
to
just
offset this.
That's
And
not how we do it.
I know
Well, it's
it's
just
not,
like-
I just don't know that it, that.
So you're asking to anticipate, like, over the next 5 years, what the equipment needs are going to be for the entire,
I would like to know what
CTE
the
department?
cost of diverting Perkins funds away from other things is to those other programs.
okay?
So what's the cost to those other programs? And I'm going to go back to, I'm not really in favor of saying that we've got a teacher retiring from a different department and we're
No,
going to
it's
put
the
them in
same
this.
department.
But it's still, we're changing programs. I mean, we could have, with the teacher retirement, that doesn't mean we're not adding a staff member. We are, because the teacher retirement could be one less FTE for the district, and lessening the taxpayer's burden. It could be one more teacher somewhere else in the district. We happen to be putting it into manufacturing, and I'm not saying I disagree with that. I just disagree with the way that that's presented. I think that it should be presented as, we have a retiring teacher, but that's not really the budget. The budget of this budget of this is going to be that we're going to have to put a teacher or two into this program. So that's part of the budget. We can say separately that there are savings, but we shouldn't just ignore it and say it's a wash without actually understanding, where that money is coming from, what bucket it's coming out of and going into.
Well, the CTE department, Melissa would say that she has lost FTEs in that department, I think, over the years. I think she's lost at least 2 or 3. But, we are saving this retirement that's happening in that department so that they can do the work and, do more updated things that are current.
I think he understands that,
Okay.
but his agent is saying, if we didn't hire somebody, we could be saving that money or putting that teacher somewhere else. So we're actually not saving because the teacher's retiring, but we're hiring somebody back again.
Yeah, and I mean, this goes into a much broader grant discussion, which I'm hopeful to have soon. But not understanding how that grant, because I'm guessing that, like, the teachers in those other departments, like in culinary or something like that, I mean, I guess they've just had a bunch of money, but they might look at this and say, well, I was really hoping for, this new equipment in 2 years, and now it's going to be 4 years or something like that. So
Yeah, well,
I
it's
guess I
kind of
just
like
want to
when we
see
buy
what
a
those
new
costs are.
curriculum for like ELA, right? The next year, we're not going to buy a curriculum again for ELA, then we're going to buy we're going to replace the math curriculum. And then the next year, we might update the science curriculum. And then after 5 years, we might go back and update the ELA curriculum again. But you're not going to, it's kind of similar to that.
It's a shared.
Yeah, I understand that. I would just like to see the plan. Like, I would just like to see more than 1 year
You'd like to see the plan for the CTE department
for the
for the next
Perkins.
5 years, or?
No, for a couple of years, I guess. I would just like to see, I mean, we don't have to go back and forth, but I'd just like to see what other departments might be losing. And as far as the budget goes, I would just like to see a complete budget for the project. And then we can look at funding sources separately. But the complete cost of the budget. And then the one other thing.
I think that's what Jen's asking for.
Yeah, and so I think I was
Cost of
just.
the project.
Yeah, which would include staff. And then from facilities, obviously, there's going to be materials. I don't know how expensive that is, but we should know what that is. And then if there's an increased, burden on facilities, I mean, is it harder to clean up after manufacturing? Is the maintenance of the machinery? Are we planning on that? Does it need a lot of maintenance? So some stuff like that. I mean, maybe it doesn't need a lot of maintenance, but maybe we need to write $10,000 a year or something like that.
Yeah, I
But
think
just so
Lori
we have
has
a
thought
full-
through this in her plan. I mean, I think in earlier presentations, she did talk about what the renewable costs would be each year, and she probably has that information.
All right, yeah. Well, that'd be great to get it in the budget.
Yeah. So, tell Shannon again what you would like to see, and then we'll see if that's the will of the board.
Well, I would like to see a budget that's got the full cost, and if there's funding sources that are currently going to other things, or there's current plan, what we're losing to divert the funding sources there.
This is a question for me. Lori's the project manager.
No, I think, well,
Whoever can answer that.
whoever can answer it. Yeah, sorry, I was looking at you because Beth said to ask you. This is to see if-
Whoever can answer that.
This is
Whoever
just-
can give us a budget, a full budget, a comprehensive budget of the program.
For more than 1 year, you're asking? You're asking for a predictable budget?
Yes,
A predicted budget over 2 years?
that would be good. Over 2 years would be good.
And you're asking for what it's gonna cost to replace materials, what it's going to cost to run the shop, which, I don't know how we would know that right now, but, what, let me see what else.
Well, you might be able to find that out from a different program. You have a program in Coventry, maybe they know what it costs to run the shop. It's their shop, but then we'll have a little idea what it costs to run the shop.
Well, I'll know what it will cost to maintain the equipment and things like that, yes.
Okay.
But, I mean, are you looking for other costs associated with running the shop?
Yeah, I guess so I don't necessarily know what all of the costs are gonna be, so I don't know that at least I'm comfortable dictating what costs, but I guess what I could say is, like, if you were gonna open a business that's a metal shop and produce something that's gonna do something like we're doing, how much would it cost to run that business? So what are all the costs that come up? I mean, we probably don't need to break out electrical, because that's just gonna be part of electricity. I mean, unless it's gonna be a significant ad, but what are all of the costs? So I just don't know what they are. I just wanted somebody else to tell me, this is what it's gonna cost, and.
I just want to make sure that I get what, I want to come back with exactly what you want. I'm going to get a budget for the replacement of materials over 2 years. I'm going to get a cost on the maintenance of machines and any other consumables, which is the replacement of materials, but also consumables like, safety, like goggles and things like that. So I will give you a budget. I can say that we spent, my budget for my machine shop program was $10,000 to $11,000 per year. Now, did they spend all of that? No, but that's what I budgeted for them each year for maintenance, replacement of small tools, materials, consumables, and that was about it. Right, I can give you that ballpark off the top of my head, but I can come back and get you more specific costs.
You all set?
Yeah.
Okay. Janie, you have your hand up?
Yes, Beverly, thank you. Lori, you don't necessarily need to do it for 2 years, even if you just do it for 1 year, because we can extrapolate ourselves, right? Like 3% increase for inflation, whatever it may be. But what I would be expecting, and the board, the rest of my peers, please jump in if I'm like off in left field somewhere, but is project budget upstart, so it's like basically one-time costs, probably like what you have presented, and then a second column that shows staffing, material replacement, staffing meaning the person teaching, maintenance support, security if there is anything, I don't know, whatever is proper, and then all of the consumables, you've mentioned it, I think you know what that is, so that we as like a government body can understand, like, okay, one-time cost, fully funded, perfect, let's move on. Operational cost, X amount, these are the number of personnel that is going to be staying within the district. We need to understand the financial cost of that, like from a salary perspective, the benefits perspective, so that we can look at our budget and say, okay, that's like an extra, whatever, $250,000 a year. That's operationalized. Consumables, you said you used in your prior district 10,000. I don't know if steel costs 10,000. I have a feeling steel costs more. Yeah, and wires.
It does cost more, but it depends on how much steel you're going to use. Remember, you're not going to be this isn't a machine shop, right? This is a training program, so you actually use wax before you use steel. So you do have a wax supply. Students train on wax, and then they move to steel.
Then let's put that in the budget, the cost of wax. I was just using that as an example. So whatever tools is necessary to run and maintain the program, that's what I'm looking for in a budget. As for the requests for the other grants, like the cost avoidance that Adrian's asking for, what I was thinking is like, it's like those teachers may have had a wish list, so it's, and knowing what the wish list was for nursing, knowing what the wish list was for, culinary.
Hey, Jen, let's not call it a wish list. Let's not call it a wish list, please.
Yes, I can't remember the name, but the proper name for it, you know, like.
What they need, what they need.
What we need, right? So we must have that list already, and I think that should suffice, because then that's saying, like, we ourselves can say, like, yep, we're investing in this dream program, and then these are the things that were on that list, and then now it's just gonna get cycled through. Hopefully that does not create additional work, because hopefully that was already prepared during the budget season. Last thing I want to do is add additional work for, our grants department and our teachers at this point. So hopefully, Matt, you have that somewhere from the budget season.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Adrian, do you have any?
Yeah, I was just going to clarify on the 1 year, 2 year, 5 year thing. I think just an annual budget, so like just 1 year of a budget, what we'd expect once it's up and running. And if there's, and presumably there's some upstart maybe for the first year. So if there is, what that number is for the first year, if it's going to be different than years down the line.
Okay. All right, Ian, did you had your hand up, then you put your hand down. Do you have anything? And Mike, do you have something?
No, I'm all set. My colleagues there, Jen and Adrian, covered pretty much everything that I was thinking.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, I just have one question on the CIP. This is a CIP that was approved last year in our budget, and we're working under it for planning and engineering. I was just wondering, has any of that been spent yet?
$100,000?
Yes. I don't know what the balance is. I'd have to ask Rita. I know Sam's been working with invoices and things as he's worked through, whether it's been the painting or whatever project he's had to do. And he's worked with her, with Rita, and given the invoices to her. But it's not all been spent. I don't know what the figure is, though, off the top of my head.
But of course, that's included.
Yeah.
And then is Lori's consultant fees, does that come out of that or somewhere else?
Her consultant fees for the actual planning preparation is part of this, but her part for as an educator has come from the DODEA STEM Career Pathway Grant. So we've split it out based on educational versus the planning and preparation with her role.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Lori, can you come back to us? Can you, and with all the information that we requested, can you come back in April with that information? Because I don't think we're ready to move forward on voting on this until we have additional information.
Of course, Beverly. We'll be back with a budget.
Did you want to do the last slide, though, Lori? Because that was one of the questions, too. I think we should finish up the presentation.
So what is the timeline for the implementation of the project? If you can go one more slide, thank you. So this slide shows what we've done to date and what we plan to do until July, when we were planning, if this was the plan, on machinery being here. If we were to open this program in September, then we would have to order equipment this month, probably by latest the beginning of April, because it does take 10 to 12 weeks for getting it in, and then of course it has to be installed and whatnot. So the first column is the 25-26 year, it's this current year, and then the next column is the start of the school year in September. We were hoping to start our first robotics course in September with Robotics 1, and there would be 2 semesters of that. Intro to Precision Machine Technology, which would be this course, which would be from this program, and we were hoping to have 2 sections of that, semester 1 and 2. And then hoping we would have a robotics 2 course, because we have students who are already in the robotics team, and they are probably more advanced students and may be ready for robotics 2. Or students could take robotics 1 in semester 1 and robotics 2 in semester 2. And then the next school year, 27-28, we would then roll out the precision machining 2, and then we would roll out an advanced robotics 1, and then the following year would be the remainder of those courses. Advanced robotics 2, advanced precision machine technology, and then finally would students in the advanced precision machine program in 4 years out would be ready for an internship or co-op.
With electric boat or other companies?
With electric boat, but sometimes those students can also go to local companies.
Right.
So, that's all the way, that depends on the teacher and the relationships he has in the community, and of course, students wanting to go. Some students don't want to, they want to stay local and go to a shop in town, and that's fine. Some, want to go to electric boat. So having the opportunity to do that.
And the machine teacher training sponsored by EB, does that mean EB's paying for the training?
Yep.
Yeah, electric boat will pay for the training. The machine program is 280 hours. If a teacher does not have electric boat training. So if a teacher came from education and not from industry, did not have that background, electric boat would train that teacher up to 280 hours. It's over the summer. If the teacher came in with some knowledge, then electric boat would adjust that training according to that teacher's experience.
So that means the teacher that we hire has to agree to go to this training.
Or they have to have the training.
Or they have to
Right,
have the training.
unless they come from electric boat.
Okay. And then they would have to be certified teacher, right?
Right.
Right, so, okay, Jay, you have your hand up, Jay?
Yeah, I'll just take a moment. I want to thank Lori for the presentation and Shannon for her insight. There's an old saying that you can't look a gift horse in the mouth, but it's our responsibility, since we're dealing with taxpayer money, to make sure we can feed the gift horse, whether it's the manufacturing grant or whether it's the early childhood. It's wonderful to get these pots of money at the beginning of a process, but it's incumbent on us to make sure that we can properly feed the horse. So I want to thank everybody that brought up those points, and I look forward to seeing what these costs are going to be. Thank you.
Mike? Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, it's just wondering for the robotics courses, I remember we talked about this, and those have kind of an existing curriculum. It's not something that's created from scratch, but wondering if they're on their way through the curriculum committee and going to come up to the board soon. 'Cause that would have to happen, right?
That'll be the next step, and I think we have done the posting for the position, I believe. I've got to check with Lori to see if it did get posted. I believe so. Lori, yeah.
Not me, Lori, but yes, I know we
The other
did.
Lori Lapine, yeah.
Yeah.
So it really is what is the expertise that someone brings to it, and so that we can utilize the expertise of the teacher as well.
I think he wants to know, did you write the course, the curriculum?
Yeah, because to offer it next year, it has to be approved by the curriculum committee and then the board. And that's kind of like a several-month process, I understand, because it's not written from scratch. It's a little quicker, but we kind of...
Yeah, I think we're looking at a couple programs that are already existing. Is that right, Lori? So,
Yes, yeah.
and we will be bringing it to you, but I think we wanted to get the teacher in place, so we're working towards that.
I think he's concerned, because why would you get the teacher without the curriculum?
Or I'm just concerned about the timeline, like to offer the course next semester. We shortened the timeline for curriculum approval, but it's still several months, and it's March.
And it's March.
I think it's like a
Right.
year.
Huh? What'd you say, Adrian?
I think it's, I mean, I think it used to be 14 months, and now it's still like pushing a year, so it would still have to be an accelerated.
I think robotics was in the program of studies. It's not on here. Hadn't they offered a robotics before? But it hadn't run, I'm not sure, I might be.
No, they haven't run it, we haven't run an robotics course before. When we had course selection this year, we put it in as whether students had interest in a course, if it were offered in future years.
That's
And
right.
that's how we've gotten our idea of how many would be interested.
Right.
That's where that 50 number came from.
When's your,
But we,
oh, sorry.
I was just going to reiterate that we haven't run a robotics course before.
For the, like, from the scheduling perspective of students, when would you need to know, like, basically have that curriculum approved by, so we can back
Well,
it?
we're building a schedule now, so that's why we need to, it would be difficult unless it were run as like a pilot or something like that to be able to run the course next year without the curriculum being approved.
Is there sort of a more
If
generic?
if that's the case, then we'd have to push it back a year. And it is what it is, but we did already, we did pose that question when students made the course selections this year, just so we could gauge interest on how many would be interested in the course, and it was around 50.
Is there sort of an existing STEM course that sort of could be tailored with the case studies or projects to be sort of a bridge to a formal robotics course? Something you have right now that could be shifted a little bit.
Our Project Lead the Way course has a little bit of overlap. So some of the stuff that Gabe does in our Project Lead the Way class is the closest thing.
And we have a lot of courses at the middle school as well, up through 8th grade.
Okay. Ian?
Yes, thanks Mike for bringing up the curriculum concern. And that hadn't actually even crossed my mind, but, yeah, I mean, even with the new process, it is a long, there is a procedure that we have to follow in order to get curriculum approved, and that would, in order to follow that pathway, that would kind of put off the launch date. If everything went smoothly with that would put off the launch date from September 26th to September 27th. To be able to get it vetted and then have it published and get everyone signed up for it. So, and that combined with the concern of what Lori just mentioned about ordering equipment in April, that is another hard backstop that we're coming up against. I really don't see how we could vet everything that we need to vet and be ready to launch by September 26th. So I think no matter what, we have to start looking at how do we put all the procedures in place and set up a timeline that gets us launching for September 27th, provided we follow all our procedures appropriately and are able to create the spaces that we need.
Okay.
Thank you.
I do want to just say that the funding sources that we have identified are for this year. So just so you know, some of these sources may not be there if we wait too long. So we can still move forward with some parts of it. Maybe we can't implement the programs, but we have to move forward with other aspects.
We have to make the purchases, right, by the end of July?
Yes.
Do we have to receive the purchases by the end of July?
We have to invoice them. We have to make that. We have
Okay.
to
But
order.
these purchases would not be useful to us if somehow, say, the curriculum didn't, if we don't have the curriculum approved, then we can't run the course. So I don't know. I understand there's certain pressures on the outside, but we don't have. I don't see how the timeline is going to work out to follow all our procedures properly in order to be action ready by September 26th.
For the machining program, I think we were looking at using the state curriculum, which is the YMPI curriculum. And in the first year of any trades program like this, it consists of safety, machinery, tools, identification, knowledge of tools. So you're not getting into real machine content until your second year, and it is a semester course.
And Lori, like Mike said, that is the curriculum that we've had, YMPI, for years.
Right.
And we did have a manufacturing teacher at one point that was using that program, so it's not new curriculum. So that's an example of what Mike Whitney was saying.
Okay.
So that curriculum could be adapted to provide the first year programming.
Yes,
Yes.
And it's already been through our process.
yes,
It's just sitting on the shelf.
yes, in a binder.
Okay.
Like all good things.
All right, well then, it sounds like maybe we're closer than we thought, but
Yeah.
we're still kind of up against it as far as like the ordering of the machinery and all that.
Yeah.
But, you're saying that we could actually proceed with like the more theoretical part of the training without the machinery being delivered on site and installed. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, I think in order to receive this wonderful
Right.
investment from the Navy and Electric Boat, we have to spend these funds by July.
By July. Okay, so the April deadline, I just heard that April deadline.
Well, the April deadline is to order the equipment. The machinery takes up to 12 weeks to come in. So it comes from Midwest California, it comes from somewhere over there. So it does take a while to get that in. I would say definitely 10 to 12 weeks. So you have to consider that in the plan. And the funding has to be spent by June 30th in most cases. The Perkins would have to be spent by June 30th. Jovia would have to be spent. So that money is this year's federal money.
Understood. So, yeah, it seems like the urgency should be attached to getting all the site plans and the course plans, everything that we've asked for, the budget plans, all that together as soon as possible. So that if we want to go, take action on this, then we have enough time to get it done in the best window, which would be, doing any installations during the summertime.
I'll be ready as soon as you need me to get this information to you. So I know time is of the essence. If you want me back here in 2 weeks, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Well, I'm open to it, if things are ready to go like that, then, let's get it on the table, let's take a look at it, and, do the vetting that we have to do, so that, myself and my colleagues are satisfied, and, I'll leave it to the chair and the superintendent to schedule it, but, I'm eager to move forward with this if we can get to a point where we all feel confident.
Okay. Could I move on? Because I have Dr. A,
Yep.
I have Rita wants to say something, Jen White, and we're still on the first item on our agenda.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and Mike. So go ahead, Dr. A, and then Rita. Rita probably wants to talk about the finances. Andrea?
Sorry, I wasn't unmuted. I just want to make sure that I understand this. So we have a curriculum that we haven't seen yet, but it's something from the state. And I don't know how we're going to order equipment when we don't even know what the curriculum is. So, but that may be preordained anyway. However, will this come to the curriculum committee so that we can look at whatever it is that we do have? And and will we then be able to forward it to the board? And I'm really leery of this because when we look at the state curriculum, but yet we need work curriculum, when will that, or to refine that curriculum, when will we do that? And we don't really have an answer. So I want to make sure that whatever we do have comes to the curriculum committee for the next meeting so that we can look at it and have a better idea of what we're talking about. Because I have no idea what we're talking about
So-
presently.
Andrea, I think I can help explain. There's two different curriculums. There's the one for the robotics team, which they were looking at one that is aligned with First Robotics, which the robotics team actually uses, and thinking about...
Matt said we didn't have a curriculum for that.
Well, there is a curriculum that they've looked at, but we haven't finalized that, but that's something we could bring to the curriculum committee. The one that we already have, though, is for manufacturing, so that's the one that would correlate with the Machine Manufacturing Center. And that's through the YMPI, which is a state organization that we've been affiliated since before Matt was principal, when Matt was assistant principal, so for many years. And we can certainly bring that to the curriculum committee too, because it hasn't been used. I think we lost that staff member a year or two ago, so we haven't used it in 2 years, but it had been used a few,
That's my question.
yeah, a few years ago.
That's my question. Is it going to come to the committee?
We can certainly bring it to the committee, both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to see it. We
Yeah.
have to see it.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, who's first, Mike or Adrian?
Mike was.
All right, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so one thing.
And then let's try to move on, because we've almost been 2 hours on this one thing.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to come back anyway, so.
Yeah, that's fine. So one thing, there is some of a parallel between our discussion of the Early Childhood Center, where we have approved a grant for the infrastructure improvements, and then we're still waiting on, even though we expect to get the operational funds to operate next year. So I'm kind of comfortable, if I'm comfortable with that, I'm comfortable with this, how this is progressing. And just kind of looking at bottlenecks, my assumption is that the Perkins Supplementary and the Perkins Secondary, that's not something that needs board approval to be spent. That's like kind of a departmental administrative decision. The one bottleneck that I see still in terms of funding is electric boat. Where does that stand?
We have to vote on it. I've told you that we were expecting it. It has come in.
It has come in?
It has come in. So now we need to go through the process of accepting the funds here at the town council and also at the RTM.
So, okay, great.
So there will be that process.
So that's kind of like maybe April I could get through.
Maybe.
I get through 3 layers ago. And I just want to point out that bottleneck so that, with the Perkins Secondary and Supplemental and the DODEA and Perkins, there's quite a lot of money there. But then that other $250,000, that's got to wait a little bit. And then I'd also suggest that it doesn't seem like to me it's an all or nothing if we're ready at September 26th or not, because these are semester classes. And
You're right.
If we have to, it's not ideal, right? But if we have to, it could just start spring semester. Not the robotics necessarily, but like the machining things come online. So I think there's we've got a plan A, and it seems rational with some tight timelines. And if those tight timelines don't happen, I think there's a fallback plan that's not just wait till the next year.
Yeah.
I think we can
do have
move
to pay
ahead
attention
either
to that
way.
July
Yeah.
standby timeline for everything probably except for the electric boat one. That probably would not have that July timeline to spend.
It's a good point, though, about we can do it in the spring semester.
So,
It's a good point.
so a lot of stuff doesn't really need our approval to be spent. Obviously, you want to, it's a major change, but the money could get moving.
Yeah, I think the money needs to get moving. That's the part that we have to think about.
Well, you could put it on the regular board meeting
Yeah.
agenda, and we can approve it.
Yeah,
Adrian?
and then I can get it to the others.
Yeah, just to kind of go off what Mike was saying, part of this to me is that this plan sounds like it's going to be a significant effect on robotics. So to even start, I would want to know what the long-term plan is for robotics. So I would request that Lori and Sherry discuss the plan, and that Sherry be included in the next meeting, so that we can get directly from her what the effects on robotics are going to be by losing the field or any additional things that might come up when she gets to look at the blueprints. So, I would recommend or request that we have those two things together, because we don't have the square footage, it sounds like, in Fitch right now. So, I don't think I'm comfortable with just like, it'll magically, I shouldn't say magically, it'll work out over a few years. I would rather just know what that plan is. Because once we approve building this, we are also approving getting rid of the field for the robotics. So just because we can build this, it has effects, and I would want to know what those effects are on robotics from, the people running robotics directly.
I think that's what Ian said before. He wants to make sure we don't kick robotics to the curb.
Yeah, but I'm just saying for the next vote, I just kind of wanted to bring it up that
yeah.
it would be helpful if that could be thought out before the next thing. And then the curriculum, I think we're talking about the referral tracking sheet, so I think we can put it on the curriculum committee to start talking about that, because it sounds like even if we have some base curriculums, that there's going to be major revisions anyway, so they're going to have to come through the process.
So that's for curriculum. Okay. All right. Jen, do you have anything different that you want to add? Because I like to move on.
Oh, yeah, no, Beverly, this is quick. I did not state it in the beginning, but I should have. I work for the company that is providing a significant donation, and I just wanted to state that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Lori, you have your work out? You have your work to do for us and come back?
Yes, I do. And Beverly, when do you want me to come back?
We'll let you know. We can have a special meeting just to talk about this, and then you could come back. How soon do you think you could be ready?
I could be ready within 2 weeks.
Okay.
As soon as 2 weeks.
Let me see when 2 weeks are. Hold tight for a second, if you don't mind. So 2 weeks would be March 30th?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we don't have a meeting on March 30th, so we can have a special meeting on March 30th.
I'll be gone, but that's fine.
Yeah, I may be going too, but they can do it. Okay?
March 30th, okay.
All right?
Very good. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for your time and your great questions.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is elimination of class rank at the Fitch High School. This went through curriculum, and now it's to the COW, so we can see if we have a consensus to move it to the regular board meeting for a vote. Matt, Susan, do you want to say anything first?
Nope. Anne Marie and Matt and Amy have all worked on this together with the curriculum committee, so they're all set. If you want to just kind of brief us, I see that there's a presentation in here. Do you want to put it up?
You don't have to unless you guys want to see it. I think the big thing in the presentation, it just talks about, our desire to remove the publication of class rank.
I think, Matt, the public might want to see it. If we have a presentation, attachment 3, I think we should put it up there.
So Caitlin, can you put it up, please?
Yes.
On it.
And Amy, I'm just gonna add, but my internet's like kicking in and out a little bit, so if I freeze or for whatever reason, you can just jump right in, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, basically, our proposal is to stop publishing class rank for our students to see. It causes a lot of unnecessary stress to our students and competition that we don't think is healthy as they're competing against each other to try to get the top ranks. If you could scroll down to the next slide. So basically what this slide is just saying is only 18% of colleges actually look at class rank. a lot of schools have gone away from publishing class rank for their schools, because you can still present the information to colleges as percentiles, what percentile they're each scoring on. So what we did is, and if you could go to the next slide, we actually surveyed another one. I'm looking at a little bit of a different set of slides on my end. So we surveyed ECC principals to see where they stand with currently still publishing class rank. As you can see here, of the 16 responses we had, almost 70% no longer publish class rank for their classes. Our proposal is to no longer publish class rank like that 70%. However, we would still use class rank to determine our valedictorian and salutatorian, which is consistent with almost every other high school in the area, which is at 93%. And really right here is just some open-ended responses to the survey that we had the other principals complete regarding class rank. I'm not going to go through those right now, but you can go ahead and kind of look at the different rationale as to what the other principals are thinking. I like the bottom quote there. It says students fixate on competing with other students, and it drives students, parents, to levels of stress and competition that are not in the best interest of students. And we feel pretty strongly about that for our Fitch students as well. And these are just more statements from those other local principals.
Thank you, Matt. Anne Marie, do you want to say anything about this?
Only that I'm in full support. I had done a little bit of research. Obviously, the high school team did a good amount of research in looking at what are some of the local districts doing. I had done some of the national research, and that's where I found that only approximately 18% of the colleges and universities actually look at high school class rank. It's not something that they see as an important factor in college admissions. So I am in support of this decision.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Amy, do you want to say anything?
I mean, I think overall, when we think about our commitment to community wellness, what we're trying to do is, something that we think is good for student wellness, because that sort of, fixation on a number doesn't always help them in terms of learning and in terms of learning who they are and who they want to be. So we really are looking out for the Fitch student in this, and think that it's going to be the best move for the kids.
Okay. Any questions, Mike?
Yeah, I noticed in the survey, I remember it from before, that one of the high schools has a scholars model. I think it's Ledger, actually. I think Fitch has sort of gone to that in a way in terms of like graduation of the medallions people receive. Could you speak to that?
Right now, we currently, for the medallions, we do honor our, we do it as our top 25 get medallions for earning the top 25. We could do that with percentiles as well if we still wanted to stay consistent with something like that. But we're also trying to look to ways to not highlight and really, encourage competition over, a number that a lot of times is really hundreds of points. So I think as we move forward in how we come up with our awards, end of the year awards and so forth, looking at more than just the ranking or that one academic achievement versus more well-roundedness as well. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I agree with the sentiment, of course. And then at graduation, it's usually among the speakers is the salutatorian and the valedictorian. Would that still continue, or would that be done differently?
Yeah. I mean, as of now, we're still planning to continue with that tradition. Currently, we have our valedictorian, salutatorian, class president, and then we also do our class speaker. So we have a competition, and we would. I think we still definitely want to keep that tradition at the Fitch graduation.
It says, Mike, after the 7th semester of high school, the school counseling department and administration will announce the valedictorian and salutatorian for the graduating class.
Oh, I know that, and I know they have to for I think it's probably presumably for UConn reasons of scholarship. Yeah, I think anything that reduces sort of a competition among people who are really students or student colleagues of each other in the same classes and finding themselves excel in the same way. I think it helped kind of have a team atmosphere among those top students in much the same way we foster that in the robotics team or clubs or athletics teams. So, thank you.
Okay. Jen, you have your hand up? Jen?
Hi, yes, thank you. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Couple of clicks. Lower hand, I'm basically going to support whatever administration recommends as beneficial to the district. So my question is just a question for curiosity's sake. How is the percentile going to be shared with the colleges? Top 5%, 10%? How is it? Or is it going to go down to the level of 2%? Or I guess what was administration thinking?
It's a good question. I think whatever the colleges are asking for, I don't know exactly, the thresholds that we would use to present that. I would like to keep it a little bit larger, even if it was 5 percentiles or whatnot. But that's a great question, Amy or Henry. I don't know if you guys have input.
I think informing that answer, I think that we would consult with some area colleges and universities and see what their threshold is for their merit money awards. And what we would try to do is release percentage scores based on what some of those merit money awards would sort of tend towards. I think we have to do our research and be smart about it. We certainly want to make sure that whatever information we're putting out as part of a student's overall profile, because that goes again with Fitch's profile goes out to the colleges too. We just want to make sure that we're being smart about it and we provide everything we can to help students the most in terms of, receiving any award that their college of choice might offer. And Anne-Marie, I know you might want to add to that too.
No, I agree with what you said, Amy, exactly.
Any other questions, Adrian?
I guess I would be curious to know if those 18% of colleges all fall into a specific category. So is that going to be the most competitive colleges, or is it just kind of random throughout? So just to go back, I do appreciate, I've had kids in the district, and there is a tremendous amount of stress with the competition. So I think this is definitely a move forward to reducing that. So I appreciate that. But I would be curious, just from the college admission standpoint, would they, if colleges wanted the rank, would they still be able to get it? And would students get rank after 7th semester, or would the students be told percentages? Or is that something that would just go on a transcript?
I would like to just stick with the percentages and only announce the valedictorian and salutatorian. And the big thing is not publishing before that 7th. So now students are aware of where they're at prior to that 7th semester. So making sure that wasn't something that would create more competition leading up to the 7th semester, and only really announcing it after that, the Val and the South. But with the others, I know some principals in other schools are if a college requests it, they will give the rank. That would be something that we would have to talk about and discuss and figure out. But right now, as we're speaking, I would rather just stick with percentiles.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that's something I'm mostly just concerned about the college admissions, and certainly the top 2 or 3%. Because it seems like the top 2 or 3% for the last few years that I know of have all been to very competitive colleges. And for those kids specifically, even if none of them knew what their rank was, which I think is a great idea, up until that 7th semester when the competition is over. Like if those top tier colleges required rank, I mean, maybe we would want to do some kind of a modified thing where we just send it to the college, just like letters of recommendation. The kids don't really get those; they go to the colleges. So if there's a hybrid way, if there's a need. So again, I'm just concerned that that some students might not get into those top tier schools, specifically.
We wouldn't want that.
No.
No, we wouldn't want to hold them back.
And I think that was my question, so thank you.
Any other questions? I asked some of my colleagues that learn that different school districts about class rank, if they have class rank, and most of them do not have class rank, and a few of them that do, well, just a couple that do, they're talking about eliminating it for next year. So you could see that class rank is going, it's a trend. Okay, are we all agreeing to move this forward for official vote at the next regular Board of Ed meeting? I'll start with Mike. Are you ready to vote on it officially?
Yes.
Adrian?
I am, and I would just to say, but I would also appreciate just being told, kind of some of the questions, some of the answers to some of the questions we had tonight.
Okay, but you want to reiterate those questions?
Like what those top 18%, the top tier colleges, if they require rank, or, and if we would be sending it out. So, and this could just be a follow-up down the line, but I would support it either way.
Okay. Did you hear his questions, Amy and Anne Marie? Yes. Okay, good. Jen, how do you feel about moving it forward for an official vote at the end of the month?
Yes.
Okay. Ian?
Yeah, I'm good moving forward.
Okay.
I appreciate all the questions asked tonight, and look forward to further information, but I agree in concept, and I think it's good to move forward.
Okay. Do you have any questions you would like them to answer?
No, I'm all set. My colleagues covered all the bases.
Okay. All right. Dr. A?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes, I would like to see it move forward.
Okay, and I don't see Sean stepped away for a minute. Okay, so we'll put that on the agenda for the March 23rd board meeting. Thank you very much, Amy and Matt and Anne Marie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Next is operational review. Rita, can you give us an update of where we are with the operational review with some of the recommendations that Joe made?
Can I just comment on the robotics? I did have my hand up, but I took it down because Lori did address the fact that Perkins grant and the DODEO grant end June 30th, and the revision date for the Perkins grant, if we were not to use it for what it's intended, is May 1st. So I just wanted the board to be aware that that funding source. As far as the operation.
So wait, we have to use it by May 1st, you said?
If we do not plan to use it for what it's intended, we have to revise the grant by May 1st.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
So that we can spend the grant appropriately.
But I think we put in for this, right, in both cases?
Yes, but I'm just stating that if we don't, encumber and intend to use it for this,
you lose it.
The revision deadline for one-year grants is May 1st.
Okay. Thank
Does
you.
that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay. And so, as far as the operational review, I mean, the only thing there are a few items that are in progress, as far as, creating purchase orders for some departments that are not used to creating purchase orders. We're slowly implementing that. the majority of these recommendations have already been put in place. Is there a specific one you'd like me to talk about, or are you just looking for an overall?
I'm just looking for overall. I mean, I ran through it, and I looked at like payroll changes. Did we do the recommendations under the payroll changes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Payroll being approved, and that was in place before our response was given. Yeah.
All right, what about the bid waiver form? Do we have that?
So I'm waiting for the purchasing policy to get approved on March 23rd. I think that's when it goes to the board for second reading. So
Okay.
once that's approved, then the bid waiver process. Right now, we are attaching a sole source document, which is based on the previous purchasing policy. So as soon as the new purchasing policy goes into effect, I will be sending out the new policy along with the waiver form to all of the departments to start that implementation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense. I think I sent, I don't think, I know I sent Mike an email today about one of their recommendations for policy was consolidating, it looked like about 5 policy, consolidating them into one. So I sent that email to Mike. I took a little photo of that part and I sent it to Mike for policy to look at.
Okay.
Okay?
But I know we're still reviewing the transfer policy, which was recommended in the ops review.
Yeah.
That I think is gonna go to the board for first reading, soon. And, but all of the vendor setup, is now, the controls are in place for that. And
That's
I'm trying to
good.
think of the other, I went through it before the meeting and made notes on everything that we've already done, and for the majority we have.
Okay.
It's just implementing, the purchasing, not the purchasing, but the PO process it takes training, to the secretaries and, the directors. So we're still doing that with Ernie's department, but, I expect them to have a lot of their purchase orders in by April 1st. That's our goal.
Okay. What about the school lunch program? Is it following the GPS policies for all the
Yeah, that's
activities?
what I was talking about.
Okay.
They are in training on how to enter a requisition, so that they're using purchase orders, and we already moved the payroll into the Board of Ed, so they no longer are operating under their own EIN number. It's, our EIN number, so they are part of the Board of Ed.
Okay. Did I ask you about the payroll changes already? You said you're doing that. Okay. Anybody else? Jump in. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I think one piece that's still there, actually is in the policies too, is about the grants. I think, not just policies on the grants, but to, at some level, have the grants be reported in the same way we discuss the part that's in the regular town-approved budget. So I think that's something that still needs to be brought online.
I think didn't it say something about reporting grants quarterly? I don't think it said, I'm going to read it again, but I thought it said quarterly.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the time frame. I just know that we don't get those. I guess let's just say regular reports on the grants. And I think they said, maybe a lot like or analogous to how we get the regular budget report. So, yeah, I don't know about the timing.
Rita, do you have a response for that?
Yeah, so I am working on developing reports in e-finance. There's no reports in e-finance developed for grants. I do have one that I just had a, last Monday, I just had a training with e-finance to make sure, I can fit all the grants onto one report. And, some of the grants, I'm trying to think if they all have budgets, because the issue I ran into in Wyndham when I was doing the grant reports is that if you don't close the prior year in the financial system, you can't roll over the balances for like grants that are 2 and 3 years running. So I know we're gonna have the issue in Munis, but, the issue in e-finance right now is that there was no reports created, and I'm really close to having that report done, and I hope to, at the next, finance and facilities, sorry, I used to call it that, finance and facilities meeting at the regular one, I'm hoping to have a grant report for you. I'm also working on Treehouse and food service, because they're 2 separate funding sources. Treehouse is in our grant fund, so that might be able to be reported on the grant report that I'm preparing, but I am working on that, and I'm hoping to have that to you guys soon.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, definitely, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is there a document that has all of those recommendations with where they are in stages of resolution that can be shared with the board? Just as like a single document?
I think we put it out in frequently asked questions. I think it's been sent out a couple times.
I don't know if that document has the status. I think we went through everything and said, I think there's only a couple that might say, I'm looking into e-finance on how we're going to do that, which is why I was explaining the grant report. But that document that we sent to the town, it's the last document I printed today.
Can you send it to the board?
We have.
I think you sent it out.
Yeah, we've sent it out, but we could look at it again, maybe see if there's anything we can update on it, and then send out
Yeah,
a
I could probably
refreshed
make
version.
updates on it.
Yeah. Don't do a whole new document.
Not a whole new document, just review it together.
I can give you the updates.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Because like I
asking.
said, I looked at it today and went through it myself, because there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
Right.
Yeah, there is a lot.
But you've done an outstanding job on it, Rita. You were figuring some of that out before you even got the report, because you came in
Yeah.
knowing.
Some of them were already done during, before the report was started. So,
Yeah.
but I can definitely update the ones that need to be updated.
Okay.
Sending
Go ahead,
that-
Mike.
Sending that update to the town is probably quite timely.
Yeah, we could even send it to the town and give them the update. They'd be pretty impressed, I think.
Yeah, I think they would want to update too,
Yeah.
because they paid for the review. Are you all done reorganizing your office, your business office?
As far as staffing,
About
or
staffing
reorganization,
and cross-training and all that?
the reorganization is done. Cross-training is being done. It just takes time. For payroll and for AP, I have 2 people that are trained if one is out. So those are the, most important things in my opinion, to be able to process payroll and to be able to cut vendor checks. So they, like I said, I have 2 staff in each area that know how to do those, so cross-training those 2 staff. I'm also cross-training on purchase orders, approvals, and, budget transfers. There's a lot of it going on. And as soon as I started, I developed a staffing, task list, and so they know what they're responsible for. I think the thing that's gonna take the longest is the, having procedures, written procedures. It took me years in Wyndham to get those written procedures for every task in the finance office, but we'll start working on it when I do their evaluations. Typically, I send them a memo in April and tell them that they're gonna be evaluated, so, I usually give them 1 or 2 tasks, so give me two of your tasks, in writing and the procedure. But does that make sense? I start small, to start getting those procedures in writing, but I am willing to do it in the beginning of April is when I start looking at my staff. I do evaluations. I think they're very important to do it annually. So that's my plan.
Okay, any other questions? I have one more, but I don't know if this is for you, Rita or Lori, because it has to do with It says, review current time and attendance system to determine whether the functionality can be improved or another system would be more efficient. Is that for Lori?
So, no, the time and attendance is managed in finance, and my staff have done an amazing job over the past few months, finding efficiencies and, creating reports and making things less manual. So, we're working on that daily, I would say, especially because, we just had all of those snow days. So, in the past, it's been a manual process. We're looking at uploading processes for, snow days and delays when we have to upload the time. So we're definitely, improving the time and attendance module. I don't think at this time that it needs to be switched. I think the system of record is finance because it goes on their paycheck, how much sick and vacation time they have, goes right on their paycheck, and I'm pretty sure that it's working well right now.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rita. Anybody else have a question for Rita? Mike?
It's not really for Rita, but my recollection is the operational review document we have was just labeled as draft.
Yeah.
Did they ever come up with a final one? I assume we're not going to have changes, but
I'll ask John.
Kind of be nice to have a
minute. I
Actually,
that too when I was going through.
we had everything done before the review came out.
I'll ask John. Anything else? Okay, thank you, Rita.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Rita,
it.
for hanging out with us all night long.
Well,
We had dinner.
didn't drive home late.
Okay, good.
Raining.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Have a safe night.
You as well.
Or should I stay on for budgets, just in case?
No, I think it's just an update on communications for budget.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you for
We'll
hanging
talk
out
about
with us.
budget tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hi. So we had a communications committee meeting a little bit ago where the focus was on community engagement around the budget. We kicked that meeting off first really reviewing information about what role district staff and even Board of Ed members can fill in an official or can do to support the budget in an official capacity, or what tools or resources we can use at the district level that would advocate for support around the budget, because we cannot advocate for support for the budget similarly to how we can't do so around a referendum. We can't do that in an official capacity. Certainly any of us, staff or Board of Ed members, can do that in a non-official capacity or as a private citizen. It's kind of odd when you think about it. It's your budget, and yet you can't officially advocate for it. But we can share information. We can share factual information. We can let the community know the role that they can play in the budget. And so that's a lot of what we have been focused on doing. So we are heavily letting the community know of the FY27 budget public hearing taking place on March 25th at Thrive 55. The unfortunate part of that date is that is also parent-teacher conferences and early dismissal across our district. That night is the late night, if you will, for the elementary schools to have their conferences. However, it is not the late night for Groton Middle School or Fitch. So, but hopefully folks will go to their, even at the elementary level, will go to their conference and then come out to the public hearing. Folks can also send letters in advance, and we'll certainly be letting people know how they can do that, again, in a very informational, factual way. We have been highlighting in all of our messaging and posts that the community is a very important part of this process. We did create a specific, budget page on the website with the URL grotonschools.org budget. So if you are out there talking about the budget, it's very easy for people to find details. We have some snippets and tidbits of information about the budget that folks often ask about or might not be aware about. We have Susan's taping from Welcome to Groton, which was excellent. We've used that on social media and also have that linked right there on the webpage. We have the budget priorities called out. So it's a very consumable way for folks to get a snapshot of the budget and a lot of the things that are probably very important to parents and families and the community. One of the things we were planning to do and talked about at the communications meeting was sort of canvassing the community, talking with PTOs, the unions about the budget, making sure they haven't had any questions, and we have, especially over the past week, been out there. We've been sharing this flyer, which I have copies here for anyone who would like one. And again, that is kind of the budget at a glance, a snapshot of some of the key information in the budget about, per student spending, our grants, the increased drivers, what the budget is, what our 8-year average increase looks like, the percentage of the budget that goes to staff and benefits, what our enrollment is looking like for the coming year, and those priorities that we have, and even highlighting, the transiency of our community, and that we roughly welcome in or transition about 25% of our student population over the course of a school year, which is a significant expense for a school district to be, if you will, onboarding new students on a regular basis, and the expenses that go along with that, whether it's PPTs and things like that, or other supplies. But we have been out there last week. Susan and I were at we were at Fitch High School. We went to the Athletic Booster Club meeting, which was great. Talked with them about the budget. We went to actually to the spring sports night at Fitch High School, which was largely attended by parents and student athletes, several, I think, 100 parents and student athletes. So that was some excellent exposure to talk with a pretty engaged group about the budget and reminding them about the public hearing. We went to the Charles Barnum and NEA PTO meetings. Bev, you went to the Groton Middle School PTO meeting, which was happening at the same time as the spring sports night. So we divided. So 2 Fitch events, 1 GMS event. We're going to chat with the Mystic River PTO this week.
We have a little problem, though, because we have a finance and facility, so we might need another board member if they'd like to go and meet with the PTO.
I did also talk with them today. I may be on the road.
Might go.
Okay. I may be on the road that evening myself, but they do a Zoom link for that meeting. So
Okay.
We have that as an option as well.
When is it?
It's Wednesday at 6 p.m.
And Beverly, tell me what the middle school said to you. I thought that was so cute, that they...
They said they never had a guest speaker.
It's been really great. It's been a great opportunity to get out there and be chatting with them, and again, letting them know the role that they play, listening. With the NEA meeting, Mr. Cheney was highlighting what he had added to the budget, or what was important to NEA this year, letting them know. So it was really great, I think, great dialogue.
Yeah.
We are looking to connect with our other 2 elementary schools. Their PTO meetings were earlier this month, and one of them was canceled due to the weather. But we will certainly make sure we have a good connection with them. So we're continuing to, like I said, get information out there. This was the letter we pushed out at the end of last week. It was a joint letter from Bev and Susan about the budget, and it had the flyer attached to the bottom of it. So, and we'll just keep information sharing. The PTOs, the athletic boosters, the sports teams who have their own Facebook pages can advocate for the budget on their independently operated platforms, such as a Facebook page that's being run by one of the school PTOs. Those are not official district platforms, so they can stay on those platforms and advocate or share information in whatever way they may want to. And I do think we'll be seeing them do that. And I think they appreciate us coming out and having this dialogue with them. So
I actually said I'd come back again if they wanted me to.
Yeah.
And talk about non-budget stuff.
Yeah. And we
did talk about a couple of non-budget items I
Yeah.
talked with Susan about.
I did ask them for feedback too, yeah, at CB. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, and
Again, when is the one on Wednesday?
I believe it's at 6 p.m.
What school?
Mystic River. And I believe it's held both in person, and they do also do a Zoom link.
Okay.
So certainly over the course, we have a little over a week till the budget hearing, which is a week from this Wednesday. So we'll continue to be sharing information with the community and some of these highlights from our materials, making sure people understand.
Yeah. Jen has her hand up. Jen?
I just wanted to say thank you. We had that meeting, like maybe 2-3 weeks ago, so on the execution of what you were talking about during our communications meeting, both you, Susan, and the rest of administration who's been supporting. So maybe this is something that can get operationalized for next year as well, and maybe make it twice a year and just like keep reminding people. So, but basically, thank you, Rebecca.
So Jen, you're right. Last year we did a safety PTO because of what happened for two of the buildings, and just being out there with the community was really wonderful. It would be something that would be nice for both board members and for me to get out there, at the PTO meetings. Some are well attended and some have fewer attendance, but you usually have some of the parent leaders and they'll get the word out. And just to sit there and listen to some of their concerns or listen to some things that are going well too in their building.
Definitely.
So.
And the Booster Club, when I was at the Booster Club, one of the officers of the Booster Club said, can students go out and speak at the budget hearing? I said, absolutely. And it was good for the students at the Fitch Spring Sports Night to hear that from you. And the other thing I forgot on my list is we had talked about, and this has been a priority for us anyway from a communication standpoint, is having a stronger social media presence. So we have been doing that as well and sharing a lot of good news and stories about the district on social media. So that's out there as well. And we'll be preparing a district newsletter also. So just getting that good news out there and making sure people are aware of what's happening in our schools.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do.
Absolutely.
That's really good. Okay, any questions? Thank you, Rebecca, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca.
And
Thank
if you
you.
need me to go, if you need me to go anywhere next week, I can go. But I can't go Wednesday, so that's what I'm looking at, Mike, because I have to go to a funeral out of town. So, anyway, thank you.
And I'll leave some flyers here for anyone who would like to grab one.
Pass them over to Mike in a minute.
He could use them. He could hand them out to Mary Morrison.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is review of the referral sheet. Sam, did you want to say anything, Sam? No.
He just sat here with us.
All right, review of the referral sheet. The first one, this was a COW one, R2022-13, on the mentor program. We already had them come, I think in January. So I think we could put January 2026.
Just real quick parliamentary privilege, can we project that referral sheet so people can see along your own too?
All you have to do is ask. You don't have to say parliamentary procedure. Just say, hey, can you project that? You have it, Caitlin?
I kind of like that part.
It's attachment. There she does. She does it. So we're looking at the COW. It's on page 2.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay. Anybody else? This one, 2024-19, create a monetary threshold for moving money within the budget for Board of Ed approval regarding enterprise funds. I'd like to move that to finance, because that's been on this sheet.
What number was that?
Right here. 2024-19.
Yep.
I think we'll go for quicker if it's on finance, and it seems like a finance thing. Ian, were you satisfied with the dashboard proposal? Do we have a proposal? Where are we with this dashboard? Ian?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure. Yeah, where do we land on that? I mean, we've discussed it with Lucy a few times, but, I mean, do we have something published and accessible?
We do have the state's dashboard accessible. That's what we use. That's our data dashboard. That's what the district uses. And we've kind of reviewed that.
At one point we wanted, like, this referral came out of the idea of, like, when that guy from Cade was visiting with us and talked about how, you know, some districts set up to do some in-house capture, and like, is there a way that we could better capture real time what's occurring? Because the state stuff is usually delayed by, 12 to 18 months.
Oh.
That's sort of like was my intent with this.
Okay. We could keep it on there then.
But I'm fine with moving the other thing to finance.
Yeah, I'm going to move that to finance because it has to do with finance anyway. What about discussion of lack thereof in schools? R 2024-33. It's been on here since October 28, 2024. Is there anything else to talk about regarding that subject?
This was sort of the middle school.
Yeah,
There's not
and
much they can do.
Well, there is, I mean, there's not much, but I think, isn't the schedule part of it? So I think that might all go together.
Well, then we don't put space, put middle school scheduling. I think Anne Marie's working on that. She has a scheduling committee with that.
All right.
Okay.
It's complicated because of space.
Space, yeah.
Yeah, but I think understanding the space, I mean, I don't think we all hear that the middle school is overcrowded, but we haven't actually discussed the overcrowding, why, how, what departments maybe. So I would like to talk about
Can
that
we
at some
get Peter
point.
to come so we can, this has been on for 2 years.
Yeah, we can have Peter come.
Yeah, we get Peter to come so we can take that over.
Excuse me, Beverly.
Yes.
Yes. Are you changing the wording of that item?
No, we'll leave the wording on there. We can keep the wording and Peter can come and talk about why he doesn't have enough space and whatever else he wants to talk about with space.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. The next is robotics. Ian, you want to keep that on, or you just want to keep that on until we finish the discussion with the machine shop?
Yes, until we have like a workable plan and everything's on board and moving forward, I'd like to keep that alive.
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
The Early Childhood Center,
Till we
voted
get
on it.
Yeah, we did.
So I think we could take that off.
I think
Just make sure we have
it's-
updates on it.
It's ongoing though, right?
No, I think it's going to go in September.
We'll have that second part. I mean, we might not, you can leave it here, but we're going to have to approve the operational grant when it comes.
Yeah, when it comes.
So, I mean, you can leave it here as placeholder, but it's
Yeah.
going to.
All right.
Yeah. What, if I can just make a recommendation, what we started doing in curriculum on things that we're just going to take more than one meeting is we just put a date, right, that we discussed it then, and then just wrote ongoing after that date.
Okay.
So you can see it under curriculum.
Yeah.
How
You
we're
could do
doing
that. Put a
So,
date there.
yeah, so that
We
way,
talked about it. We just approved it at the last meeting. What was that, February 28th? And then put it on the go. Okay, board approval of grants, that's still here. And, I wanted to ask Matt about the exit survey. If he can, I heard the exit survey, it's not that great at the high school. This is from Matt Schulman. but Matt Brown was on there. I hear
Are you talking about the student exit survey? Okay.
Yeah, that's what it said, a sample student exit survey. Heard it's like, just what school are you going to? It's not very informative about how the students felt about their education at the high school.
Okay,
we
so
wanna-
I'll check in with Matt on that one and Peter on the other.
Okay. Anything for COW? No? All right.
Can we put the curriculum referral on now for robotics curriculum?
Can you give it to me in writing? I want to stick with that.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I was thinking we could just do it now.
Anne Marie's
'Cause we
hand
have
is up.
we have a quorum, so we could just say review. I mean, they can figure it out if we just write review of robotics curriculum, or manufacturing center curriculum, I should say.
Right, I mean.
Okay, do you have your hand raised in? Please raise your hand. I just want to keep the meeting going smoothly. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, like, as for that conversation, you know, they were saying basically this curriculum's on the shelf that just need to be taken down, dusted off, you know, maybe a couple tweaks to it. So if it's already been approved by a previous board, I think it could probably
Reviewed.
The curriculum committee pretty quickly. Just a quick review, like I said, knock the dust off and make sure that, you know, it's in good working order. And then,
YMPI. Don't have,
Yeah.
Youth Manufacturing Program, something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I'm in support of Adrian's suggestion of let's put it right on the curriculum committee right now and try to move that along so that's one less barrier.
And I'd like to do the robotics curriculum too.
That's what he was. That's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Robotics. Okay.
Well, we could do both.
Well, it would be, I think, however, robotics / manufacturing.
Okay, because we can't have three people talking at the same time. Go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, we could leave it vague, so robotics / manufacturing center curriculum or something like that.
Well, you're not going to review the robotics. You have to, don't they have to develop it?
Yeah, I think it's developed.
Yeah,
I think it's.
There's three new course curriculums. They may have major revisions, which would mean they'd have to go through the whole process.
Yeah.
So I think,
Just to show you
I
what we
think
have.
it's good to just have on here, and Anne Marie has her hand up and can probably speak to it, but just so it
'Cause I
happens
think
quickly, since it seems like we want the
Yeah. I
center
think
to
they have
open
to
quickly.
develop that curriculum. Anne Marie?
First, I want to say that I think we did a discussion of the mentor program. Actually, relatively recently, Jen Anthony came and talked about this, but that hasn't been updated on the referral tracking sheet under COW, so I don't know if you want to do an update on that.
Yeah, I think we said we were going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we're going to take that off.
Yeah, we did do that.
Okay, good. All right, I'm sorry, I must have missed that.
Yes,
And then
ma'am.
secondly, in terms of the curriculum updates for the robotics and manufacturing, I'm happy to, I don't know if that needs to be put on the referral tracking sheet. Generally, what the process is that when there's a course that's ready to be moved forward, whether it's a major revision or it's a new course, we have a protocol and a process for that. It doesn't involve the referral tracking sheet. It involves somebody to, whoever it is, whether it's the teacher or the principal of the school or department supervisor, they need to put together a course proposal, complete the course proposal document that comes to me. I review it, and then that's the signal that it needs to go to the curriculum committee. I'm waiting on that, for these courses that have to do with the dreaming. Because I don't have that, that's why those have not come forward to the curriculum committee. Again, I don't believe that, anything needs to be put on the referral tracking sheet here as a reminder that, that this process needs to start. I think the process starts with our regular protocol. So as soon as I have a document that says this course, whatever it is, whether it be manufacturing or robotics or whatever the course is ready to be reviewed, then I'm happy to bring it forward.
Okay. I could go with that.
I could too.
If that's the...
Could I speak again on that?
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't see what the harm is in putting it on the referral list, because that just serves as a reminder, and it could be an impetus to cause some action. But if I could just finish, I do see two different tracks here, because from what I understand, the manufacturing thing, there's like an introduction course about like basic safety, and something that, the state curriculum that was already approved and is on the shelf somewhere. That's one thing, but then like developing and building out the robotics and the manufacturing thing, that's another thing, that's a future thing. So, I mean, I'm trying to get clarity on that.
We have a process that I want to keep intact, and I've been trying to develop this process and this protocol since I started. And now I feel like the teachers know the process and the established protocol, and I don't want to divert from what that protocol is. So if we start putting things on the tracker, then people won't know, oh, is this going to go on the tracker to get started, or is this going to go through the process of completing the proposal document? I want to make sure that, if we put something in place, that's what's followed. I understand what you're saying about like getting things jump-started, but the school knows that I've been waiting on, okay, what course are we moving forward first? That kind of thing. So they know what I'm waiting on.
Okay. If you have a process, we'll follow the process. I don't want to disrupt your process. So if that's the process, we'll stick with that process. Adrian?
I appreciate that.
I guess
I do have concerns about that. And if there's a holdup here, and like, we've been waiting on, it sounds like manufacturing, like, is in limbo. I don't know what's going on. So, I don't know. Can we get a teacher to submit the course? What's the holdup?
I will follow up with the high school again tomorrow.
I wrote it down too, Ian, thank you. I did.
Okay. But let's stick with the process. Let's not try to tell Anne Marie you need to change your process. If she has this process in place.
To be honest, I wasn't aware that the processes were in conflict. I thought they were in concert. Whereas if we mention something up here, then that would cause some action down there, just to say that, hey, look, we feel like this is a priority, and then now prompt some action somewhere else where someone will say, all right, I'll take the ball on that and I'll move it downfield.
But she's going to take the ball on it.
Two things could operate in parallel. I don't understand why there's a perception of conflict.
I don't believe that the teachers will respond to, this is not, I'm not taking a shot at you. They're not really going to respond to a board.
I'm not expecting the teachers to respond to us. I'm not expecting the admin to.
And she says she's doing that, Ian. She's doing that.
Okay. Very well then.
All right. Thank you. Let's move on.
Well, I was just going to say, with this thing in particular, it's proposed that we start 3 courses in 6 months. So I think if, I don't think I kind of agree with Ian. This isn't really in conflict. This is just so that the board can be informed on what the plan is. So if we're going to start those 3, it could just be a discussion in a meeting, say, yes, we're on it. We're going to have this curriculum to you in June and this curriculum to you in July. But it can be discussion to just delve into what was started tonight, which is where are these curriculums and what will we need to do as kind of an overview, which is why I kind of said robotics/manufacturing center. So I don't think it needs to be the individual curriculums right now, but I think it's fair to be able to tell us what the plan is, just because on this specific thing, because it's 6 months out, what we've seen tonight is it's 6 months until we're going to run these programs. Mm-hmm. And we've been told that the curriculum writing process takes a year.
Yeah. All right, get back to us on that, Anne Marie, at some point, if you don't mind.
No problem.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Dr. A?
To adjourn.
Okay.
Was that adamant enough?
All right, it's 8:44 and we are now adjourned. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 And who made the second?
Sam.
Thanks, Jen.
I always forget about the second for that. Dr. A and Jen. Good night, everyone.